Good day, I am Chrysler Nuevo ID 124 and I'll be teaching CALENG1 quiz number 1. In this video, the discussion will be all about the general power formula, or also known as the power rule. Let us remember the general formula for the power rule. So it is known that the derivative of x raised to n is equal to n x raised to n minus 1. So let's start with a few simple examples first. Let's have the derivative of 10x cubed. So using the rules of derivatives, we know that this is just 10 times the derivative of x cubed. So let us differentiate x cubed using the power rule. First, we have 3 as our n, that's derivative of x raised to n. So we bring down n, which is 3, copy x, then n minus 1, so n is 3 minus 1. Then continuing, that will be 10 times 3x, 3 minus 1 is 2, so 3x squared. So simplifying, that is just 30x squared. Okay. So how about another simple example? Let's say the derivative of 5x squared. So again, you can put out the constant 5 outside, so that's 5 times the derivative of x squared. Then we will have 5 times the derivative of x squared. Again, we have n is 2, so bring down 2, copy x, then n raised to n minus 1, so n is 2 minus 1. So that will be 5 times 2 times x raised to 2 minus 1. 2 minus 1 is 1. So simplifying that, 5 times 2 is 10, x raised to 1 is just x. So we have 10x as the derivative of 5x squared. Now let's try with some more challenging problems. For example, the derivative of 1 over x. So how will we be able to use power rule with 1 over x? Remember that 1 over x is just the inverse of x, meaning it is just x raised to negative 1. So using power rule, we copy x again, so x, then our n will be negative 1, so we multiply that by negative 1, then n minus 1, so negative 1 minus 1. So simplifying, negative 1 times x is just negative x. Negative 1 minus 1 is negative 2. So if you were to rewrite that, negative x raised to negative 2 is just negative 1 over x squared. Therefore, the derivative of 1 over x is negative 1 over x squared. If we were to use a different example of the same type, say the derivative of 6 over 5x. So again, let's put out the constant. So 6/5 times the derivative of 1 over x. Now if we were to copy just what we did up here, we know that the derivative of x, or 1 over x, or x raised to negative 1, is just negative 1 over x squared. So we could write 6/5 times negative 1 over x squared. Or if you want to go by step by step, we could do it again, 1 over x. So that is equal to the derivative of x raised to negative 1, which is equal to negative 1, this is n, times x raised to negative 1 minus 1, or negative x raised to negative 2, which is just this. So that would be 6/5 times negative 1 over x squared, meaning we have negative 6 over 5x squared. So now, how about square root of x? The derivative of square root of x. So again, the most important rule here in the power rule, or our theorems, our rules, with our exponents. So remember that square root of x is x raised to 1/2. So that would mean that this could be written as derivative of x raised to 1/2. So if we were to evaluate that, the derivative of x raised to 1/2. Remember, our n again is 1/2. Bring down n, copy x, then n 1/2 minus 1. So that would be 1/2 x raised to 1/2 minus 1 is negative 1/2. Therefore, we could write that as 1/2 times 1/x raised to 1/2. Or, could also rewrite that as 1/2 square root x. Or we could also rationalize it as square root x over 2x. Therefore, the derivative of square root of x is 1/2 square root x, or square root x over 2x. So what if there's a constant inside the square root? Let's say the derivative of square root 5x. So again, that can be written as square root 5 times square root x. And we can put outside the constant term, so square root 5 times the derivative of square root x. So again, we could just copy from up here that the derivative of square root x is equal to 1/2 square root x. So if we were to just copy that, copy square root 5 times 1/2 square root x, you will get square root x over 2 square root x. No, I'm sorry. This should be square root 5. Copy square root 5. Derivative of square root x is 1/2 square root x here. This one's copy 5. This one's here. Then you multiply that, that would be square root 5 over 2 square root x. Or you could rationalize square root 5x over 2x. Now, how about let's solve the derivative of the cube root of x squared. So again, we just have to translate this. So that could also be written as 2x raised to 2 over 3, or x raised to 2/3. Since 2 is our power, which is here, then 3 is our root, which is here. Okay, so again, just using the power rule, we copy n, that's 2/3, copy x, then 2/3 minus 1. So that is equal to 2/3 x. 2/3 minus 1 is negative 1/3. Therefore, our derivative could also be written as 2/3 times 1 cube root of x. Or further simplified to 2/3 cube root of x. So our derivative of cube root of x squared is 2/3 cube root x. You can also rationalize this into 2 times cube root of x squared over 3x. How about we differentiate 5 square root of x squared, x plus 1. So again, that's just 5 times the derivative of square root of x plus 1. And since this is a square root, or aka raised to 1/2, we could rewrite that as 5 the derivative of x plus 1 quantity raised to 1/2. So let's try to use power rule here. Okay, so let's copy that. First, we have our n, 1/2. So times 1/2. Then we have our x, which is x plus 1. Then this is 1/2 again. 1/2 minus 1. So here let's use a bit of something far from our topic, the rule of, sorry, I meant chain rule, not rule of chain. So let's introduce chain rule here. Since we have differentiated this whole, we need to differentiate what's inside. So we're going to just multiply that here. So what is the derivative of x and the derivative of 1? Okay, let's copy that down here. Now, the derivative of x, since x is just equal to x raised to 1, means that's just 1 times x raised to 1 minus 1. And 1 minus 1 is equal to 0, so that is x raised to 0 or equal to 1. Therefore, if we rewrite our equation, our answer here, 5 times 1/2 of x plus 1 is to 1/2 minus 1, let's solve that, negative 1/2, 1/2 minus 1 is negative 1/2, times the derivative of x, as we proven with power rule, is 1 plus the derivative of 1. So what is the derivative of 1? The derivative of a constant, as we know, it is 0. So let's prove that with power rule. So the derivative of 1 is simply 1 times x raised to 0. So you copy 0. 0 times 1 times x raised to 0 minus 1. So since you have a factor 0, that all equates to 0. Therefore, this is 1. The derivative of 1 is 0. So let's simplify this. That's 5 times 1/2, 5 halves, times x plus 1 is to negative 1/2, times 1 plus 0 is 1. So that could be also written as 5 over 2. So since this is a negative 1/2, this is a different color. Since this is a negative 1/2, it means that is the inverse, so that will be found in the denominator, and 1/2 means square root, so that is 5 over 2 square root x plus 1. Therefore, the derivative of 5 square root x plus 1 is 5 over 2 square root x plus 1. Kind of similar to our square root of x, as you can see here, over here. So this is your constant 1, then just square root 2. No, sorry, I meant just 2 and square root x, or what was inside the square root. So here we have x plus 1. So that is all for the discussion. Thank you so much for watching. You may also avail syntax tutorials by scanning the QR code flash on your screens. Once again, this is Chrysler Año Nuevo from Syntax, paving your way to excellence.